as a bank which was started off as a community bank and then morphed into this fast-growing, digitally savvy, investor-friendly bank and customer-friendly bank at RBL, what is your sense of how, do you really think that it's going to be easy for an RBL, for instance, with all its capabilities on digital, to take on an HDFC bank or an ICICI bank or an Axis bank? What is your sense?
Well, just coming to it, I'm just reminded of a very simple adage when the mobile world was expanding. Duniya mutti mein, right? They really brought the facts to the fact that now today the world is, the bank mutti mein is not the appropriate word. Banking up a haath mein, that is exactly the precise formula in which today the world is moving. It's not the question of size which matters today. It is the question of your agility and your ability to penetrate the space which is vast, wide and deeper. That's number one. The second, what differentiates today's consumer and that of the exterior consumer is their influence of the e-commerce. The ease and convenience of doing an e-commerce transaction. Can it be replicated here is a challenge this side of the table. The expectation from the consumer and the client is that why it can't be. It again makes me to the simple analogy of one of the books the banks have written, banks 2.0, 3.0. They say, do we need a bank?
Correct. Or
do we need a banking? So when you wanted to do the banking, to what extent you will be able to adapt technology is the today's, your ability to do the banking, be it anywhere in the world as Murali and Mr. Rajneesh was talking about, that's going to be the big differentiator. Second, you have to necessarily look at the today's demographic divide of the country. Forget about 9 years or 10 years. You talk about the Gen Z they call. The one who are definitely fueling today's disruptive technology for adoption wherever it is. This Gen Z, which is around 27% of the country, and you have a Gen X, which is again around 20 plus. Then you always have the people who just fit into the Gen X, the earlier who are just less than 54, the baby boomers of our age. All of them, there's a common thread which moves around is that if I can do a thing easier, convenient, most important fact today is that, do I have a cashback and rewards? What is there in for me to do this transaction? Why the payment space is extremely penetrated with all this disruptive technology is that you have ease, convenience, and you are having a cashback, and you are having a rewards. These are three facts which has penetrated into the payment. Whether it has been extended to the other part of it, the statistics prove that it isn't. Because the most important thread which is missing in that fintech and the banking world is a trust factor. Today the trust factor comes from the two facts. Do I see a building? Still 90%, one of the surveys I just read recently, which said 90% of the people whom they surveyed, and it's a very large pool of the survey, they still believe that my preferred or a primary bank or a primary financial institution, which they call the PFR, has to be the one which is going to give me a security of my data. This is a differentiator between what is the today's world of the fintech and the banking. Do I have an ability to get the trust? The trust comes from what is the negative, is there any negative news about it? These two are to be vetted, so they go to the traditional banker. So the today's world, the banks of like, we wanted to make the best of both worlds. How do we do that? You have to go to the model of a partnership. The question of me imitating and duplicating what is the efforts already done and then gone into it is not the right way of doing it. We are a regulated entity and we are bound to be a regulated entity. The fintechs are not able to, as Mr. Kumar very rightly said, you will not be able to expand your footprint unless otherwise you are able to bridge the gap of two facts of the data security and the trust factor. Since you are regulated, the best part is tie-up, partnership, and exchange the views of your trust and your ability to store the data securely and with their agility and their ability to deliver at the end. If you are able to meet the consumer expectations and consumer service to the proper customer journey, the tie-up will be able to be successful. That is something which we are wedded to and which are working on.
So bank mutti mein is a very dangerous thing. Banking mutti mein is what you're suggesting, clearly.
That's what
yeah, that's what I'm saying. So, Sunil, at IBA, for instance, what are you telling your members? How are they across the board? Because you have a very wide membership. Across the board, how are you witnessing that the trends in terms of their digital journeys? Because each one's journey will be different in terms of scale and size.
Yes, it's a very pertinent question. As a banking body, we deliberate on these issues. And the payment space is already digitalized and we are all pretty well aware of it. The next era is for digitization of the lending products and lending solutions. And I think every bank is now working on it, starting from the personal loans and unsecured loans, and then going forward. The solutions for mortgage loans may also work out because there is an ecosystem where this documentation can be done online and end-to-end journey of a lending product can happen online. So that opportunities are available. But as an industry, we are also looking for that this jam trinity has provided a lot of leverage, the way what Mr. Kumar was also saying, Subramaniakumar was also telling mobile mutti mein, so banking mutti mein, so jam, Jandhan, Aadhaar and this mobile trinity has really brought banking into the mutti mein. So that is there. But this has now developing certain concerns also. The concerns in the area, because a lot of people are adopted the technology, but they are not fully aware about the cyber security threats that are available, the type of frauds that is happening. And for a banking industry, as very rightly said by Mr. Kumar, that trust is the most important thing. So if the trust is lost by tomorrow, you have a digital banking and you lose your money through a fraud, it gives a wrong lesson to the consumer and to the lot of people who are associated with that consumer. So the very important aspect of working is, like, besides penetration of the digital banking, there need to be an important element of creating a consumer cyber awareness to prevent the cyber fraud. Then there is a very important need to prevent the mis-selling, because the Data Privacy Act now, the data misuse is very rampant and a lot of institutions are going for a cross-selling and mis-selling without giving the adequate information. So the banking sector need to create certain enablers where the interest of the consumer in terms of trust is protected, so that they know that yes, if I'm dealing with an entity, my data privacy will be there, and there will not be any mis-selling, and there will need to be a governance issues to be created around it. So as a banking community, the potential for adopting it, digitalization in lending space is the vast opportunity. But as a, you need a break with the escalator. So that break in terms of ethics, in terms of cyber security, cyber awareness, and mis-selling and all these things need to be covered. So these are the important agenda for the banking industry right now.